Welcome to another exciting episode of Travillian Next. I'm breaking out the Jason Aldean cowboy hat for this one because we're talking with FedFis, Bobby Button, SVP of Sales at FedFis, and Dave and Tanner Mayo are known as the FinTech Cowboys. So really had to break out this hat because I never usually wear it. I was telling Bobby just for country concerts, but yeah, great to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. I love the hat. Looks great.
Yeah, it's a great hat. You should look into. It feels like I'm, working for Jason Aldean right now, but it's a good quality, good quality hat. Yeah, it's great to talk again. I know we've spoken a few times, and we're quickly heading into that holiday season. So much has happened, this year in the banking and fintech world. I feel like we're just at such a rapid pace kind of heading into 2022. It's exciting.
Oh yeah.
Just got back from Money 2020. Well, it's been about a month. Took a few weeks to recover, but it just feels like there's an energy in the banking and fintech world right now, and you must see it on your end, Bobby. But yeah, to give the audience kind of a little overview of FedFis, kind of how it came about and the products and services you offer, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Keith. And I can talk about the FinTech Cowboys at first. So Dave Mayo is our founder and CEO, and his son is Tanner Mayo. He's our president. And prior to FedFis, I used to work with Tanner at a company called Malzai Software here in Austin, and we were acquired by Finastra, and both of us jumped over to FedFis about that same time. But Dave's been running FedFis for years, probably close to like 22 years now. He was one of the original people at Sheshanoff, and they were a bank data company. I think they spun off, and there's some acquisitions there, and I think that it ended up being SNL, which is now S&P. So Dave, at some point in there, jumped out and started his own firm, FedFis. And we've done a lot of new things over the years. If you looked at us 20 years ago versus what we're doing now, it's totally different. I mean, we're almost totally focused on fintech. So a lot of cool things happening, like you said.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, Travillian was actually part of SNL Financial back in the 90s and early 2000s. And then our managing director, Dave, bought the company, spun it off. We're now private, but nice little. I remember on the chat we had that came up, but and you right before Money 2020 actually had a conference down in Texas, and I know a lot of BaaS banks flew in, and I think you mentioned a few that we work with, Coastal Community, Lincoln Savings Bank, two great clients of ours. But can you tell me a little bit about that conference and the energy you felt down there?
Yeah, sure thing. And I agree, man. It took me a couple weeks to recover from as well. I can't believe it was a month ago. But yeah, we've got a conference we host out in Fredericksburg, Texas, each fall. Fredericksburg is like the winery or the Napa Valley of Texas. A lot of little cool wineries, cool like Germantown. But yeah, no, it was great. We had we keep it relatively small. We had about 150 bankers there, about 50 other sponsors, vendors, things like that. But yeah, about half the BaaS sponsor banks were there. You named off a couple great ones: Cross River, Lead Bank, Sutton Bank and Trust. Yep. They were all there. So pretty cool little innovative conference. We actually, it's funny kind of how we kind of went about it the first time. We've done it about 4 or 5 years now. But we pretty much use our data to invite all the most innovative banks. We have like a innovative bank score. So the first year, like, okay, well, how do we get the banks there? And we just went through our own data and said, let's just contact the most innovative ones. That's how it got started.
You're sitting on a gold mine there. Very similar to our Travillian Tech Forward Bank Index that we started.
That's right.
About 4 or 5 months ago. Probably a lot of the same people that you invite to your conference. And it's funny, coming out of Money 2020 and talking to a lot of fintechs, there's a lack of BaaS banks out there. There's a growing pipeline for the Coastals and the MBBs of the world for fintech partnerships. So
yeah, it's crazy,
yeah,
man.
it's needed to, I mean, how many fintechs? I don't even know how many fintechs are out there, but it feels like I learn about a new one every day. And there's only so many BaaS banks that can handle that partnership. So was that one of the issues that you talked about at your conference, kind of the lack of partners on the bank side?
Yeah, you nailed it, Keith. That's spot on. We're seeing the same thing. It's like a bottleneck, right? There's 75 BaaS banks, and we're tracking 352 fintechs. We classify fintech as any non-FI that offers banking services that works through a sponsor bank or with the sponsor bank. But we were up to like 400 a couple quarters ago, and we dropped down to 352. Just, folks couldn't get off the ground. Maybe they abandoned the US market. And we were also over 80, like 81 sponsor banks. And then we had some acquisitions like PNC bought BBVA and shut their, BaaS department down, some things like that. But yeah, man, it's a big bottleneck. And it's funny, the bankers are like, how do I become a sponsor bank? It's awesome. And I think we're going to, a year from now, I think it's going to look totally different. But one of the questions they always ask is like, okay, once we're a BaaS bank, how do we get the fintechs? And we're like, the fintechs will find you, I promise. There's such a need for more BaaS banks that
moth to a flame. Yeah, just turn on the light and they'll start coming. Yeah, we're getting questions from banks that are looking to get into, the BaaS industry. And, it's not just like flipping on a switch. I mean, you have to look at everything from culture to technology to, the talent you have there. I think culture is probably one of the most important, if not the most important. If you don't feel that kind of innovation to partner with the fintechs and look at banking in a different way, it's going to be hard. But the communication, there's so many things to it to see the successful BaaS banks that have been doing it for 4 or 5 years. But you think about it, it's only 4 and 5 years. Imagine what it's going to be in another 4 and 5 years.
That's right.
Just, you saw it at your conference, I saw it at Money 2020. There's so much right now, and that kind of leads into the next topic of trends in the industry, what you're seeing, what we're seeing on our end, including kind of the talent from the BaaS side, but also we're always looking at what's next, like what's coming down the pike. And I had a conversation with Chris Nichols at Money 2020, and he was talking about blockchain, crypto, those type of roles are going to be needed at banks, product managers, roles that you never thought of before. You might need a head of blockchain soon to kind of run that area of the business for the bank. So yeah, always looking at what's next, and it's hard to predict, but you can see so much innovation happening. Do you have any thoughts on the trends in the industry right now?
Yeah, man, no, I think you nailed it again. I like that point of it's only been 4 or 5 years. What's going to look like another 4 to 5 years? We're kind of calling it like the new de novo cycle. I mean, de novo banks, there hasn't been a whole lot over the years, but look at the fintechs and the BaaS banks. I mean, that's almost like we're calling it the new de novo cycle, the whole the BaaS arena. But no, man, crypto, that's my number one as well. What we're seeing, we're probably going to post about it in our weekly update here coming out today. But what the trend we're seeing right now is these crypto firms are becoming fintechs by like our definition by offering debit cards. So there's a company called Voyager. You should check them out, but they're doing the same thing. They're offering coming out with the debit card. It's going to be a little weird whenever like the Coinbases, I think they might be launching like a checking account or a card. So it's going to be a little weird there. And then I think the second biggest thing, we had 2 of them this week, is fintechs buying banks. So we had the American Challenger Bank. They bought Patriot Bank today, or I think it was a couple of days ago. And then we had Bank Mobile buy First Sound Bank. And Bank Mobile used to be a direct digital bank, a customer's bank. So that's a little weird. And then about a month ago, we had M1 Finance. They bought First National Bank of Buell. But I think that's cool. As long as the banks aren't going away, like due to old, sheer M&A banks buying other banks, I think fintechs buying banks is kind of cool. I think the charter still survives is kind of the point.
Yeah, we actually, Chico is a client of ours, and they purchased a small bank in Minnesota. I forget the name right now. It's but we helped place my colleague helped place the president of that small bank up there to work with Chico. So sometimes you need, new talent. Once fintech buys a small bank, maybe the bank CEO or the talent at that bank doesn't have the skill set or the experience to run with a more fintech oriented type strategy. So we're seeing that cool. Also. Yeah, and there was a plethora. I love that word. Plethora of over the last week or two, fintechs buying banks. Because you think about it, it's the easier route, I would think, than going the traditional kind of charter route. We just had an article put out the other day by Travillian about the M&A kind of backlog with the government, because there's a lot of it happening right now. There's a lot of big banks buying other big banks, and they're expected to close, but now it's leaking into 2022 because there's a backlog of M&A. So I would think on the charter side too would be the same thing. You're working with the same type of agencies, so it might be easier just to buy a small bank that you can buy quickly, maybe all cash deal, something like that. But no, it's very interesting to see that. And then once you get that charter, who knows after that? Could go in a lot of different directions. So maybe you do see a Coinbase or a Gemini buy a bank at some point, a crypto exchange. Who knows? But it's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah. Very exciting.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. And so tell me kind of, how banks, credit unions can work with you, and also how fintechs can work with FedFis. What you can provide to them, how it really helps them from a strategy standpoint. What's the benefit of being a client of FedFis?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start off with the banks first. So we just launched a new platform. It's like a social plus platform for bankers only. Only bankers, no vendors, no one else is in it. That we went live with that at our conference about a month ago. We've got about half the banks in the country on it. We went through all the state banking associations, and IBAT here in Texas, Independent Bankers of Texas, was our first partner in that. And they've got like 500 banks. I mean, they're a big one. That's a cool place to start. It's totally free for bankers. So there's different user groups within it. You can, if you're a banker and you're in New York and you use Q2 for online banking or whatever, we have a user group for you to talk with other banks that use that same technology. That's kind of cool. We also have it by state. I think my favorite though is this product we have inside the platform called FinTegration Strategy. So we didn't cover this yet, but some of the data we provide, we do a lot of data subscriptions for companies. Some of the data we track is, we know who the core is for all the banks and credit unions, the online banking vendors, loan origination systems, debit, credit processing. So if you're a banker, this FinTegration Strategist is to help them kind of subvert the whole process of having to hire a technology consultant that's going to issue an RFP for a year and have to do 30 demos of a piece of technology. We're trying to help them arrive at a short list of vendors to look at in a couple minutes. So what we do is, hey, Mr. Banker, confirm this is your tech stack with our data right here. Jack Henry Silverlight Core, Q2 online banking, whatever. And then they can select, which product they're looking to replace. Maybe that's mobile banking or credit cards. And we show them, hey, here's all the vendors that integrate with your current core, that have live banks in your peer group. Maybe you're an ag bank in, upper Midwest or whatever. So kind of helping them, instead of making it more of a guessing game, they can say, oh, well, here's the 5 vendors that, hey, they've got referenceable banks like me, live customers that integrate, and their KPIs are great, right? So we track the vendors by performance. How well do the banks on, this vendor perform versus this vendor, in terms of like return on assets, efficiency ratio, growth and deposits, that type of thing. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. To really cut down on, because look, you could see all the marketing material, talk with the founders of the fintech, but if the technology doesn't work with the bank's technology, I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. So it seems like you can cut down on kind of that initial phase of gathering information and really say, hey, these are your top 5 probably to speak with.
I love that you said that. Yeah, we call it don't be sold to.
Yeah, I mean, until you walk in there and he's like, yeah, it works with everything and everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that's what sales does, but and product does. But to have kind of somebody like your firm, who's this person, just not a referee, but kind of just somebody who's just like, okay, this is the data. This is your data. We're just providing you with data. We're not telling you to go with somebody, but this is what will fit with your tech stack and what's best for your bank.
That's right.
And having that banking background, with Dave and Tanner, I mean, you know where they're coming from. And we spoke with them, and they're just great, like down to earth. They just want to help. We want to help community banks. We want to help community banks at Travillian find those best fintech partners or look into a new line of business, whether it's BaaS or crypto or payments or something like that, because we want to see all these community banks thrive, and it's getting more difficult in a digital world, a quickly changing digital world. Like we said, what's it going to look like in 2 to 5 years? Just look what the big difference just pre-COVID and now to here. How many people have changed to online payments and banking on their phone, and it's getting even quicker towards that change. But that's fantastic. So probably the best way to reach you, just to reach out to you, Bobby, if they want to discuss FedFis or anything there.
I would probably just go to fedfis.com, reach out to us there, and we can direct you to the right, whether that's the Bankers Helping Bankers platform, maybe you want to talk to me. Everything kind of filters through that. So I would check out fedfis.com. That's a good place to start.
No, that's great, Bobby. And it's always a pleasure speaking with you. And hopefully next year can plan out the trips a little more, maybe go to your conference and then to Las Vegas for Money 2020. I think 2 days in Vegas is preferred over 4.
I hear you.
So still in my 20s, I would say I'd spend the whole week there. But it was a great conference. But you got to really have to kind of plan it out before you go. I was a rookie, so got to meet a lot of interesting people and BaaS banks and fintech. So it's super exciting right now. But have a great holiday season with your family down in Texas, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too. Hope you have a great holiday season. Talk soon.
Thanks, buddy.